What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I'm super excited about today's video. It is the first episode of Heavy Talk in 2020. Today, this story is absolutely insane. Like, I cannot wait for you guys to see this. We have another John, who has lost an insane amount of weight. He used to be over 500 pounds, and his story and the way that he tells it and some of the stuff, like, it really did make me quite emotional, and I think it's very, very interesting, and I think that you guys will enjoy this one quite a bit. I do want to say, if you guys are interested in following John, I'll have all his links down in the description down below. He's an awesome dude. He's definitely worth a follow. Very, very good stuff, and I think that you guys will be inspired by this interview. So without further ado, roll the intro. All right, John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm super excited to talk about your journey because it's insane, man. You said at your heaviest, you were 500?
Yeah, between like 5 to 5'10" at my at most heaviest.
That is unbelievable. And so where are you right now?
Right now, I'm about 237 pounds.
237. The math on that, I'm not going to even try.
It's like a 270 something weight loss.
Jeez, okay. So before we even get into that, I want to talk about like how you got to that point, right?
Okay.
So growing up, were you always an overweight kid? Like, walk me through how you ended up being over 500 pounds.
So basically, I come from a very old school Italian family. I'm from New York. So, my whole childhood was basically eating all the time. We eat for parties, we eat for death, we eat when we're bored, we just eat to eat, So a combination of just eating all the time and coming from a home that food was always readily available, mixed with, health ailments that I had as a kid. It was just a bad combination. And, one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. And then, the next thing I know, I'm ballooned over 500 pounds.
So you said health ailments as a kid. What was going on when you were growing up?
So when I was born, I had meconium aspiration. So right out of the womb, I, battled for my life for about 2 weeks. I was in the hospital after I was born for about 2 weeks in an incubator. After that, because of that, I had very early stages of asthma growing up. So right out the gate, I couldn't really go out and play with friends. I couldn't run around. I couldn't play sports. I was very confined to just sitting on the sidelines and watching my friends, watching my cousins do what normal kids do. And then there would be me, with a bag of goldfish, just eat and watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one of the things, because I had really bad asthma, what they do is I was put on a steroid called prednisone. So the thing with prednisone is it either stunts your growth or it makes you gain weight. So those that know me, I'm 6'5". It didn't stunt my growth. It just made me extremely heavy. And with that, the food, the cravings, it's one thing to be hungry. It's another thing to take a medication that makes you even more hungry, makes you even, makes you have an attitude when you can't have the foods you want. You know what I mean? I remember arguing with my parents as to, well, why can't I have a 5th slice of pizza? I don't understand. I'm still hungry. So that was my battles, early on, straight out the gate, was just food addiction.
So you brought up your parents, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing to talk about, because I know my mom, we've talked about my weight loss and my weight gain after I lost the weight quite a bit. And it was definitely something that she felt an immense amount of shame. Like, she felt so bad because she felt that it was her fault that I was as big as I was. Getting up to 500 pounds, have you ever had any conversations with your parents and like how they felt with that?
So we definitely have had conversations about it, but like I said before, it was strictly a medical reason as to why I couldn't do these things. So I would never blame my parents, and I don't think my parents are really ones to blame themselves. I think that they really tried to push me to do things as a kid. I was enrolled in Pee Wee football, but I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I would have an asthma attack and I wouldn't play. I'd be on the sideline. You know what I mean? So it's not like the attempt wasn't there on their end. It was just physically impossible.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say you would have an asthma attack, what would kind of how bad would they get? How scary was it?
I mean, I'll put it to you like this. I probably spent during my childhood, I spent a lot of holidays in the hospital. I had spent Christmases in the hospital. I spent Valentine's Day in the hospital. I spent a lot of Halloweens in the hospital. You know, during like elementary school, I was probably in the hospital way more than I was even in school.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. So, man, hearing that, because I always try and relate in some way, right? And I remember when I was big my whole life, right? I just gained weight. And I remember I even had a shirt that said like "Born to be Big" on it, right? I truly felt like there was no way I could lose weight because I had tried so many times. Looking back, I didn't know what I was doing, so I wasn't doing the right things. But in my head, I was really trying, and everything led to failure, right? I was always failing. So I really felt like I can't lose weight. There's no way for me. So hearing that you had this medical condition that was stopping you from being able to play football, even if you wanted to, was that kind of a struggle for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge struggle. It was hard to just, you know, it's hard to tell a 5-year-old why he can't play football with his friends or why he can't play baseball with his friends. You know, it's hard for a 5-year-old to express to his friends, you know, why he can't play tag. You know, I remember, you know, sitting at recess and watching everyone else play, and then there's me again sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And did it affect my social skills? Maybe with the children like around me that were my age, but I was the type of kid that really kind of went and spoke with the adults. If you ask anybody in my family, if we went to birthday parties, for example, if someone had a birthday party and they invited me, I was more likely to hang out with his parents and his family than I was to hang out with the kids during the birthday party. You know what I mean? Because I had so much more to relate to. I was a 13-year-old who was put on high blood pressure medicine. I remember sitting at my buddy's house eating dinner one day, and his father had said something to his mother about a blood pressure medicine he was on. And I was like, oh, I'm on that too. You know what I mean? Like, and that, you know, he was 45 and I was 15.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So, okay, so we talked about like the past and how you got to your biggest, but so you're 500 pounds, 510 pounds. You decide, I'm assuming, right? It's time for me to lose weight.
I didn't decide.
Okay, so
I definitely didn't decide.
How did you start?
Life kind of. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
so life kind of just decided for me.
Okay.
To make a long story short, I almost died in my house. I code blued in my house. I had a massive asthma attack.
Wow.
As I'm being wheeled out of the house by paramedics, an EMT looked me in the eye and said, "I'm so sorry." Reason being, when paramedics showed up on the scene, no one was ALS certified. So for people out there that don't know what ALS certification is, basically, do you know what an EpiPen is?
Yes.
Okay, so an EpiPen is epinephrine. It's pure adrenaline. When paramedics arrived on the scene, no one was technically allowed to give me epinephrine, which would have opened up my lungs and would have made them be able to treat me better. No one was able to do that. So as I'm being wheeled out, you know, he says, "I'm so sorry." At this point, I'm floating in and out of consciousness, and I'm just praying. My grandma had passed a few months prior, in the beginning of that year when this happened. And I remember praying to her the whole time in the back of that ambulance, you know, "Give me one more shot. If you give me one more shot, I'll make this right." Lo and behold, about an hour and a half later, I wake up in the emergency room, hooked up to a BiPAP machine. And at that point, I knew that I had to, you know, stick to my guns and stay true to my word.
Geez, man, that was, I mean, how old were you when that happened?
That was 2015. So what was I, 23, 22 or 23?
And like, something that I say a lot is when I was at my heaviest, I wasn't living, I was just like existing.
Yes.
You know?
Me too.
And that exactly, because I remember I would be home alone and I would be afraid. You know what I mean? Because I'm afraid that if something happens, if I have a heart attack or something like that, no one's here. Right. And I was 20 at my heaviest, right? Like 20 years old, literally afraid to be home alone because of my size. I just remember like, this is no way to live, But at the same time, like I explained, I didn't think there was any other option for me, you know? And so it's crazy that you actually had the experience that I was afraid of happening, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you decide, I'm going to make a change. What were the first things that you did? Because I'm assuming you were like, well, I can't go to the gym. I can't work out right away. So you,
exactly.
I'm assuming you had to take some steps, right?
So I consulted my doctors, and the best recommendation that they could give me was to join a pulmonary rehab facility.
Okay.
So basically, this was just a regular rehab facility for elderly people who had suffered from like heart attacks and strokes and car accidents, and just, you know, a place to try to get them going again. You know what I mean? So I enrolled into this. It was called Oxygym. I enrolled into Oxygym, and I specifically remember being on a treadmill, and beside me was an elderly gentleman, and, you know, to the other side of me was an elderly woman. And they were on the treadmill, and they were kicking ass on this treadmill. Like, they were totally just ripping it up. And then there's me, who could barely, you know, go, you know, 0.5, you know, 1.2, you know, anything on the treadmill. And I'm just like, I can't do this. And these 70, 80-year-old people are putting me to shame. You know what I mean? So it gets to the point where I'm there for about 3 months or so. At that point, I came to the realization, if I really want to change my life, it's not going to happen in a pulmonary rehab facility. At that point, I was introduced to my trainer, who is still my personal trainer now.
Oh, wow.
We went to the same high school. We weren't friends in high school. He had lost about 115 pounds on his own.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had met Steve, and he kind of just got the ball rolling, and, you know, he put me through workouts that my body could handle. At 500 pounds, I couldn't walk into a regular gym and fit into the machines. I couldn't even, my gym at the time had a flight of stairs in order to get in. It had an elevator and it had a stairs. I couldn't even walk up the stairs to get to the gym to check in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had to take an elevator. So we had worked out for probably about 8 months to a year. And I had gotten down about 85 pounds. Within that time, I was still getting sick. I was still having asthma attacks. I was still ending up in the hospital. I was being put back on prednisone. So what would happen is I would lose a significant amount of weight, and then I would put it back on because of the drugs. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, it's a double-edged sword. What am I going to do? My whole entire life, I always looked at bariatric surgery as an easy way out, right? I was told the tales that it's a shortcut, it's a silver bullet, it's this, it's that. Okay. At that point, my doctor sat me down with my family and said, listen, John, if you really want to do this, if you really want to lose the weight, you need to consider bariatric surgery. You need to consider gastric sleeve surgery. At that point, you know, I was so gung-ho about changing my life. Nothing was going to stop me at this point. I had done the research. I put in a lot of research, even over the years before I even made the decision to actually have it done. I still looked into it. So I had a substantial amount of knowledge about it. At that point in November of 2016, I decided to have it done. And then that's really where my journey began. Once, you know, the bariatric kind of took off a little bit more of that excess weight to kind of get me going, it just punched me in the right direction.
And I think so I didn't even know that. And I think that when it comes to, I've always said, like, when it comes to weight loss surgery, I really get upset when people are like, it's just an easy way out. It's like, maybe for some people it might be that, right? Obviously we all have our own choices that we can make, but there is, and like for you, I mean, you are a perfect example, not that you need my approval or anything like that, but like, I always say, if you are going to get the surgery, it needs to be the last thing you do, right?
Correct.
Do everything else that you can. And when I was listening to you tell your story, the fact that 85 pounds is quite a bit of weight, but in a whole year, that's all you lost in your 500 pounds. I was like, wow, I assumed you would have lost more, right? Not, but like, and then it makes sense, right? Like you're battling, you're going up two different hills at the same time, you know?
Right.
And so that, I'm sure that was a tough decision for you.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, obviously it's worked out, and it was something that you kind of, it was almost necessary for you, at least from what I'm hearing in the situation that you were in.
Right. Well, what my perspective is with bariatric surgery, and I think that you and I both kind of have similar ideals about it, is that when used properly and used as a tool that it's designed to be, it can be extremely successful. Like we just said, when you go into bariatric surgery as your first option,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it's as successful as it should be,
Mm-hmm.
because people look at it as that easy way out. They think that if they get 2/3 of their stomach removed from their body, that they are just automatically going to be this healthy person. And it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. You know, I know so many people out there personally, on a personal level, that have gotten the surgery, have lost a significant amount of weight, and then put on more weight than what they lost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it happens all the time because they think, well, my stomach's this big now, it's going to be this big forever. No, you need to, you know, there's maintenance that's involved. There's a lot of hard work that's involved. You have to relearn everything. And if you're not willing to do that and you want to just go through the hell of the first 3 months and then just go back to your old ways, well, you're not going to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
You might change your current situation, but you're not going to change your life in the grand spectrum of things.
And so with the surgery and all of that stuff, how did you kind of like change your diet? Because we've been talking about the gym and stuff like that, but I mean, you know how I think about like diet is for weight loss is like the most important thing. So what did you change anything when you first started losing weight before you got the surgery, and then did anything change after you got the surgery? How was that?
So when I started my journey, I decided to totally cut carbs in the beginning.
Okay.
I kind of went on like a mock keto, I like to call it, because I would never say that I did keto or I was ever in ketogenesis or anything like that.
You were just like super low carb, basically.
Super low carb, high protein, you know, lots of veggies. And that's just the way that I ate. And that's the way that I continued to eat going into surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So I already had the mentality of kind of like changing the way that I ate. But now what I tell people is bariatric surgery, it didn't change my body. It changed my mind. It retaught me how to consume food. It retaught me why we eat. It retaught me that food is fuel. You know what I mean? Like if you gas up a car, it's going to go, right? If you don't put the right fuel in the car, it's not going to go. So if you keep putting junk into your body, no matter if you have this new stomach or not, it's not going to do anything for you. So it gave me a second chance in the fact that it was a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you kind of already touched on it, but a lot of people, they abuse the surgery. Like the surgery is not going to fix everything for you. It's not a magic bullet like people might think. Like I'm telling you, it literally doesn't exist. There is no, for weight loss, there's no magic bullet. There isn't, right? Like even if you get a weight loss surgery, like it doesn't solve everything. And I have friends as well that have gotten surgeries and are now just as big as they were when they got the surgery, because your stomach will stretch out. You will be able to eat the same amount of food. So if you end up getting the surgery, you don't change your eating habits at all, and you're still eating ice cream and stuff all the time, these super high calorie foods, eventually you're going to be able to eat just as much as you were before, and your weight is going to go to the same place that it was before. So I think that's a really interesting point for sure. So now, kind of, how long have you been able to, you know, keep the weight off? What's your routine like now? And honestly, like, what's life like now, being at a normal weight, you know, compared to being over 500 pounds? Like, how different is it?
Well, this year will make 4 years that I'm out from surgery. So I've been losing weight for probably the last 2.5 years, I would say. Right now, I've just kind of finally hit the, I guess you would call it maintenance. I don't think that, so this journey doesn't have an end for me. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like you. I kind of like to play, play with my body. And I don't want that to sound weird, but yeah, I kind of like, I thought about it and then I was going to say it. But yeah, I like to experiment now.
Yeah.
So right now I'm putting on a lot of size. So my eating habits, they really haven't changed. They're kind of different because now I'm allowing carbs again. You know, for the whole time I was losing, it was like low carb, low carb, low carb. But now I've reintroduced carbs into my diet because I'm trying to put on size. So it's all about, relearning why foods do the things that they do. Can you ask your question again? Because I kind of lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Well, I was just like the difference in living your life now that you're at like a normal size compared to being, 510 pounds. I'm sure there were tons of limitations at that weight. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, at 510 pounds, I mean, like, I could hardly fit in the front seat of my own car. You know, I couldn't fit a seatbelt around me. I couldn't go on an airplane. I couldn't go to a movie theater. I couldn't go to a ball game. There were so many things, like you said before, I was just existing. The world was going on around me. I was just kind of here. You know what I mean? Life passed me by every single day. I would wake up, I would eat, I would go to bed. I would wake up, I would eat, I would go to bed. I'd go to work. You know, it wasn't like I was getting any fulfillment, any enjoyment out of life because I was just there.
So with you saying that, and I hate to interrupt, but it's crazy to me that currently we're in a situation and in a climate where you saying that could be determined as being shameful or hateful towards a group of people. With the Health at Every Size movement gaining traction, the reason that I like these episodes so much is because it shares the reality of being morbidly obese. You know, not this glorification that we've seen, you know, over the past like year. I love having these conversations because the people that have been there and realized, like you literally almost died, but a lot of us are afraid that it's going to happen. You lived through that and you understand this is not something to be glorified or normalized.
No.
Like, should we shame people and make people feel bad? No. But should we be honest and say, hey, being that size literally almost killed me, and I couldn't do X, Y, and Z because of it. I think that that's really important. So like that's a point that I think is very, very important, and I'm glad that you were talking about that stuff.
I think that there's a really big difference to be said about being body positive and self-love and slowly killing yourself. Yeah. You know, and I talked about this on my page the other day. Like you said, there's a lot of people that are starting to pop up that they're kind of preaching to people that you shouldn't change your life if you're in an unhealthy situation. Yeah, I get it. You should always love yourself 110%. But there comes a time where you need to look in the mirror and be, 1,000% honest with yourself and say, am I killing myself or am I loving myself? Is that slice of pizza making me feel good about myself, or is it just a temporary enjoyment that's kind of giving me that satisfaction? I think that food addiction is just as serious as drug addiction.
Absolutely, man. Like when you were saying that, I was literally thinking, okay, you could make that argument. Someone that's addicted to cocaine be like, well, if you love yourself, you would take another hit because, like, obviously it makes you feel good. Like, that, if you tried to make that argument for that drug, people would be like, are you kidding me? That is insane.
Right. Exactly. And somewhere in the last year and a half or so, we kind of lost ourselves as a society. And we just kind of, everything is just kind of like so hush hush. You can't talk about this. You can't talk about that. But we're talking about people's health now. You know what I mean? We're talking about lives. You want to have a whole country of people that are over 450 pounds?
And I mean, the data shows that we're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was reading an article where it was talking about how over half of the United States population is considered obese or will be in soon or something like that. I don't want to butcher the study, but it's unbelievable that like what we're doing now obviously isn't working. And so just like saying, well, you should just love yourself regardless. Like, obviously that's not working. We need to figure some stuff out. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing stories like yours, because people need to see that it is possible. It's not
this 1,000% possible.
Yeah. It's not this crazy thing. Like I always say, I'm not special. There's nothing special about me that made it so I could lose weight that someone else couldn't. It's just that I put in the work and I did the research and I understand calories and I like going to the gym. I like working out. Like, I've made this my lifestyle, but that doesn't mean that I'm any more special than you. It doesn't mean I'm any more special than someone that hasn't lost the weight. They just haven't figured it out yet. And like, that's what I want people to watch these videos and be like, I can figure out if John can do it and if John can do it, like we can do it, like that's super important to me. But like, is there anything else, like if there's someone out there watching this, right, that wants to start their weight loss journey, they don't know where to start, what would you say to that person?
stay accountable to the things that you say you're going to do. And what I mean by that is social media, for example. We can post all day long about this life that we live on social media, you know, our lifestyle, whatever. When we turn off our phone, when we're alone in our house right now, there's no one there to watch us. So only we know what we're really doing. So you could tell the masses, hey, I'm doing keto. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing X, Y, Z to lose weight. Okay, now I shut my laptop, I shut my phone, and I go home and I eat a whole Domino's pizza pie. Okay, that's not accountability. You're lying to yourself. So if you're okay with lying to yourself, then nothing is going to change. But if you have that switch that goes off in your brain and you are willing to stay completely and utterly honest with you, you can make change happen.
Absolutely, man. Awesome. I love that. I literally was just talking about that in the last video that I just released. So I 100% agree. Dude, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. I really appreciate it. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'll have everything linked down in the description so people can find you. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you, bro.
And once again, huge thanks to John for doing that. I'm seriously, I'm fired up after doing that interview. I think that everything he said is spot on, and it just goes to show you, like, you're never too far gone. You can be literally on the brink of your life ending and you can still make a change. So again, if you guys do want to follow John, all of the links will be down in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. There's one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, look up my fam.
Obey the warning signs, and when there are flashing lights or wigwags, don't attempt to cross until they come to a complete stop.